So I wrote the book because people don't think to use ancient Chinese thought as a resource for how to navigate their lives. I'm always frustrated. I'll read articles in magazines and they'll say, well, let's think about this philosophically. And there's, the turn to Aristotle, Plato, they'll come up through, medieval thinking, as if Chinese thought doesn't exist. So my purpose in this is to just present these texts, these great texts, to Americans, so at least they have the opportunity to consider them when they're thinking about either their own personal issues or larger political issues or whatever, because they're great books. These texts have always been with us. It's not that there's been a time that we haven't had them. So they've constantly have been in circulation, have constantly been reflected upon by people in various places, China and other places. I don't see any discontinuity in their relevance that way. Personally, my prior book was a reflection using Daoism on my son's life. He was born with profound disabilities. And I turned to Daoism as a source for meaning and understanding of disability, and I found that to be very relevant personally. And I found in Zhuangzi in particular, as you know, there's many images of disability in Zhuangzi, and there's a kind of valuing of disability, or I should say a kind of resistance to impose a structure of value across individuals, such that every life, every person, every moment in way or Dao is as valuable as any other. And again, I found that personally quite comforting. And so it's my belief that other strands of ancient Chinese thought might be relevant for individuals in a wide variety of possibilities that I can't even imagine. The book has actually gained more attention in China than in the United States, which is a little frustrating because my purpose is to bring the text to the attention of Americans. But so most gratifying are some Chinese people I've met who've read the text and are sort of fascinated by it. So, wow, I've never thought about these traditions in that way, that they can be extended to an American context. And some find that interesting and fascinating. On the other hand, there's also much less so, but there has been a response, at least in one occasion, where someone has called me out to say, well, how can you do that? How can the foreigner understand, say, Confucianism because it's a Chinese thing? And of course, the way I'm thinking of Confucianism is that it's a world philosophy, as Daoism is a world philosophy, and it is available to us. But I see this in some ways as a political response in terms of saying, no, there's something about me being external to a Chinese experience that would somehow make it impossible for me to comprehend these texts. And I obviously don't agree with that. I was at a conference in 2006 in Beijing talking about Confucianism and postmodernism. And at one point, it was an academic conference, I turned to the collected group and I said, if you really want Confucianism to be worldly, then we have to stop thinking about it as being particularly Chinese. And that's a hard idea because the idea of those two being linked together, and they obviously are historically and conceptually linked together, but the idea that you can sort of take Confucianism out of that context. But yes, if you want to push it out there in a soft power sort of way, that has to happen.